Hello and welcome to the Comedy Recycling Theory. Today's segment is going to be on why nature needs two different inverse square forces, gravity and electromagnetism, or, electricity, heat, light. Any of those are all electromagnetic phenomena. But why does nature have two different inverse square type forces if only one would do? And that's today's segment on the Comedy Recycling Theory. Well, imagine that this here represents a black hole. It's my little prop model of a black hole, something I can point at, something I can grab a hold of, something I can show you viewers at home. But by conventional theory, we all know that gravity does or is supposed to be able to escape from a black hole without any fall off in energy, that there's no hint of gravity disappearing when the black hole forms, that gravity still emanates outside the black hole, and gravity is still just as strong outside the black hole as it would have been before the black hole formed. Now, of course, it still falls off as inverse square, but that the black hole, or that the gravity does not disappear when coming out of the black hole, whereas electromagnetism, heat, light, anything else does not make it outside of a black hole. So something different in the properties of those two forces is the reason that nature actually needs two different forces. Now, one of the things some scientists have been working on is trying to unify all the forces of nature, and part of their hypothesis is that if you get hot enough, you go up to something like 10 to the 96th power degrees, that at that point gravity, electromagnetism, the strong force, weak force are basically almost all the same. Now, we're not going to be able to go up to 10 to the 96 degrees for this segment, and certainly I wouldn't want to be sitting in this chair if that was going to be the case, and you would not be wanting to watch your video at home even if I were going to be experimenting with 10 to the 96 degrees. But what I can say is that it's not a coincidence that gravity does make it out from a black hole, and that heat, light, electromagnetism do not make it out from a black hole, and that that's one of the key reasons that nature needs two different theories, or two different inverse square forces to show how nature works, how to do things. And it's the comedy recycling theory is saying that although conventional theory says that heat and light don't make it out of the black hole, conventional theory does believe that the knowledge of the electrical charge trapped inside does make it out of the black hole. The comedy recycling theory, on the other hand, says that all speed of light limited knowledge is trapped inside every black hole, and that there's no way that that information can leak out to the outside. And that the other reason that gravity makes it outside of a black hole and that heat, light, and electromagnetism don't is gravity is not, if you will, a speed of light limited force. In fact, by the comedy recycling theory, gravity is actually more of an effect rather than a true force. The comedy recycling theory says that gravity is actually due to the action of curvature, which is like a twisting, a bending, a looping, a warping of space, which changes the energy carrying capacity of matter, influences it, lets it so, or keeps it so that it cannot contain as much energy in curved space as it can when space is not as curved, and that action is what actually causes the action we know of as gravity. That it's because the effect of, or that the action of curvature on matter is what produces gravity. That's why we still feel gravity outside of a black hole. That's why gravity emanates outside of a black hole, even though all electromagnetic information, everything speed of light, cannot make it out of a black hole. It's trapped inside. It's forbidden from traveling out, from being known, from interacting, from interfering with anything else, or participating in any speed of light based interaction. So that's a very brief segment from the comedy recycling theory on the two different inverse square forces. Why does nature need two different inverse square forces? Well, answer, because they are different, and the key difference between them is right at the outer limits of the black hole, or the Schwarzschild radius. That's where the actual limit between no passing through or no coupling out of electromagnetic or speed of light energy, whereas the curvature-based sensing, the curvature-based effect, that it's more like a twisting or bending or warping of space, but it's not speed of light limited, that it comes out of the black hole, it's felt outside the black hole, even though anything the speed of light is not allowed to come outside the black hole. And that's why we experience gravity outside the black hole without any dropping off, without any diminishing of the strength, and without any you don't have to round it down by a fudge factor or whatever to round off for the fact that it's got to leak through or tunnel out from the inside of the black hole. But that gravity is actually based on curvature, and curvature is part of space it's simply there, it simply has those properties, and that act or effect of curvature on matter is what ends up producing the force that we know of as gravity. But it's not a true force, it's more like an after effect because of the force of curvature. And that's today's segment on the two different inverse square forces that nature uses, because nature needs two different inverse square forces.